how difficult was it for you to create a whole new identity?
When you're in the football grind, it's competitive on a daily basis. You're working to try to be the best that you can every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Your coaches are watching every single step. A lot of people see the Sunday and they see the bright lights, but there's a lot of time and energy, and the mental side of it is huge when you're actually getting ready for games. It's important to realize that in life, and then once you leave off of that football field, how can you transfer that into
Yeah.
what you're doing? Again, there's a shock factor when you leave the sport. For me, I kind of always knew that day would come at some point, and I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to learn, and during the off season prep myself as much as I can for that day.
Today, I'm sitting down with someone who knows what it means to reinvent himself over and over and over. Forey Duckett spent years playing in the National Football League before transitioning into a powerhouse career in sales, where he has now spent over 27 years connecting with people from all over the world. And his journey is a masterclass in adaptability, moving from the intensity of professional sports to the everyday strategic grind of business and in real estate. Not many people can say they've lived 2 or possibly 3 entirely different careers at the highest level, and even fewer can say that they've succeeded at them all. And today we're going to talk about identity and resilience and competition and confidence, and then the customer experience and listening to your customer, and what it takes to build a brand outside of being in the lights and the NFL. So this is my friend Forey Duckett, and thank you so much for being a member of the Blue Stiley podcast, Forey. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, Blue. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and get to know all sides of me. Obviously, we know each other before this point, but it's just great to just get back and talk to one another and kind of shoot the business and catch up on life.
Well, and I'll bring the audience in that we did a little pre-talk, and it was like, you and I have known each other from our modeling careers, and I've always looked up to you as a mentor because you were a couple steps ahead of me on the ladder. And I would always look up to you. And anytime that we worked together, you would take me to the side and say, Blue, have you tried this? Would you do this? Could you do this better? And I was always learning from you and being curious. And you were just so giving with your time, Forey. And that's who you are as a professional as well. And so thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think honestly, I was raised that way. I was born and raised in a family of entrepreneurs, for one. So my dad owned his own construction business when I was a younger kid, and my mom was actually in the banking industry. She was really high up in the state of California for Wells Fargo. So we were always preached. So I had 2 older siblings. We were always preached to make sure you do your own thing, create your own business, and make sure you're always good to the people you work with. So I think that's kind of mindset I've taken throughout my life in sports, also in business. And, I always try to convey that to all my clients that I work with, that I'm obviously here to work for them. And, we're going to work this together as a team and do the best that we can to make sure they're successful.
Well, and I love that because you had this foundation that gave you all of the tools necessary to become successful at whatever career you chose. And you basically, you made the NFL draft, which in and of itself is so difficult to do in '93 when you went with the Bengals, and then you played for the Seahawks, and it's just like you have had this career under the limelight, and you have these skill sets that you're then able to transfer. But how difficult was that to transfer once you hung up your uniform and you got into your own business, you became that entrepreneur, and you got into real estate? How difficult was it for you to create a whole new identity?
Honestly, it was, when you're in the football grind, it's competitive on a daily basis. You're working to try to be the best that you can every single day. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you're practicing, literally you'll have film and you'll have meetings after your practice session.
Mm-hmm.
Your coaches are watching every single step. How are your hips moving? How is your body moving? What did you see on this play? How did you, how are you going to adjust in this certain situation? So, a lot of people see the Sunday and they see the bright lights, but there's a lot of time and energy, and the mental side of it is huge when you're actually, getting ready for games and different things like that. So it's important to realize that in life, and then once you leave off of that football field, how can you transfer that into
Yeah.
what you're doing? Again, there's a shock factor when you leave the sport, because the
Mhm.
bottom line is everybody wants to play in the NFL or MLB or
Yeah.
NBA as long as they can, but realistically, it's a really short lifespan. And so for me, I kind of always knew that day would come at some point, and I
Mhm.
always wanted to learn and during the off season prep myself as much as I can for that day. And when it came, just try to step into that and make sure, obviously you got to transition, and for me, I felt it was fairly efficient, as far as trying to grind out my next step in life and try to do the best I could for myself, my family, and my clients.
Really quickly, did the NFL have like a mentorship program where, let's say, seasoned players would maybe take a younger player and say, "Hey, think about your money. Think about what your livelihood is. Think about insurance after the game because you're not going to be here every day. Like you're not going to be here for the rest of your life. Like there will be a day that you're not playing anymore." Did they provide that, or did you find somebody who could help that transition, or at least set you up for success post NFL?
There's programs that are set up.
Hmm.
You can typically do those in the off season. There's mentor. I wouldn't say it necessarily called a mentorship, but they'll do different type of I don't know, financial literacy classes, and they always want you to try to invest in certain things. So when I played, obviously what I did was I tried to take the least amount of money that I could off my check and basically put it into a 401k program through the NFL, and they had this great match program. So if you put in, $5, they were going to put in $10 for
Hmm.
every amount that you put in. So I tried to load that as much as I could because I knew, in some time, obviously I'm going to have to transition. So that side of thing was one thing. But for me, myself, I think that my family, I remember when I got drafted and, my father, we were speaking and, rest his soul. But the first thing he said was, he goes, whatever you do, you better not go buy a really nice, lavish car. You you are going and you're buying a house first. I don't care what it is. If it's going to be a condo, investment property, or whatever it is, you do that first, and then just go get a used car. Put some nice rims on it. They
Yeah.
don't know. People don't know. Just
Yeah.
you can be a little flashy, but make sure you put your money in the right place. And so that was what I did. My first year in 1993, I actually bought my grandmother's house. So she was having issues with her house. She was already in it. She
Hmm.
was about to lose it. And so what I did was I bought it and let her stay there with a reduced rent.
Hmm.
So that was my first investment personally. And then from there, I continued to buy properties, for myself. And that's what eventually made me think, what, this is something that I think I can use as a career.
So how hard? Okay, so you got into that was your first initial like introduction to it, and it was caused
Correct.
basically by your dad, who says,
Yeah.
you should buy an investment property, and most people, it's so hard, especially today, to get into that market, like to put enough money down or to save enough money, and so it's easier to rent sometimes. But you were lucky enough to be able to make that decision, to make that jump off that cliff, right, and actually make
Yeah.
that purchase. And when you did that, was it scary, but you were like, okay, this is the right thing to do? Like, what was going through your mind as you were an NFL player and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this property, and it sparked a new buzz for you? Like, did you enjoy that process so much that it was like, I want to keep doing this because that can create passive income?
Well, actually, when I did that, it was kind of a help family situation
Mhm.
also. So it was like, my grandmother, she was not as well educated. She just, a few generations back, barely, I don't think she graduated high school. So financially, she wasn't savvy. My mother, who was extremely savvy, she let me know the situation. And she's like, hey, this could be a good investment for her, but also, I mean, for you, excuse me,
Mhm.
but you can also help your grandmother stay where she's at. So I'm like, you know what, this kind of makes sense to me. It's a way for me to have a tax write-off. This will also help her in her life. And then, realistically, I'm like, do I really need to live there? And I'm like, I don't want to move into the house with my grandmother.
Right.
There's a way for me to kind of tuck some funds away and just kind of think about that and how I can process that to work for my next step. So my next step was, is after that year, I had that write off. So the following year, I'm like, well, I need to buy something for myself. I need to discover a residency. So the first
Mhm.
house I bought was in California because that's where I was born and raised. So my second house or condo was actually in an area called Leschi, Seattle. So
Mhm.
it's right on the water and little condominium. So I literally at the time, believe this or not, I spent the summer up here, trained for the off season, worked out at UW, even though I went to University of Nevada to play football.
We can
Uh,
still be friends for you. It's all right because I did go to UW.
so from there, I actually had met my girlfriend in college, who became my wife, and I literally bought a property and gave her the keys, and I told her, "Hey, find a roommate. I'll be back in 4 or 5 months."
What a love story. I thought mine was good. Okay.
So
Oh.
that's my wife now. Obviously, we made it work out.
Uh-huh.
So I did pitch her the keys. She found a roommate. I had somebody help paying a portion of that mortgage.
Yeah.
And from there, I was like, okay, now I have a tax write-off in the state of Washington where there's no income tax, so it just made sense for me. And so I was like, you know what? Even though I'm not a Washington guy permanently, I'll give this a shot and see how see how I like Seattle, how I like the surrounding areas. And, that was quite a while ago. That was over 30 years ago now. So, yeah, it's been good.
So that sparked your interest in real estate, obviously, and you did it well. Like you couldn't, everybody always wants to buy the lavish mansion right away and be able to do these things, but it's like you have to start small sometimes. You started with a condo and you mentioned to your girlfriend at the time, like you were going to have to live with somebody else. Like it's hard. Not everybody has the perfect life of being able to buy that home. And so, okay, so you bought your second property and you started to see that you enjoyed the process. What got you into real estate? Like to get your license and transfer from the NFL to doing that?
Well, I kind of knew. So again, as a kid, I don't know if a lot of people have this experience, but my dad was kind of a hard, tough guy. He had his own construction business. He had me in work boots at 12.
Hmm.
So literally from there, I was working on job sites. And so I worked on job sites from, 12 years old until I was in college. So I was 20 something years old. So literally every summer I'd come back and work for his company. And he basically, two things he told me when I graduated from high school. He was basically saying that, hey, I don't know if I'm going to have this home to live in anymore. You got to figure it out. So it was one of those kind of come to Jesus moments
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, you got to figure life out at this point. So from there, I literally started grinding for football. So that was the discipline side of things. He let me know where we were at. He was honest with me, and I had to make a decision on, how am I going to grow to better myself. Some of my friends were staying home and, trying to do whatever they could. I knew football was going to be my option to move on. So
Hmm.
fast forward to the next stage, learning that basic discipline with my father, with my mother, and basically them my mother letting me know the financial side of things. My father, raising me to be, somebody that can work with your hands. And if you need to, fix something or build something, you can do that on your own, and you can know if people are doing the things the right way for you when you're basically, working on homes or whatever. So
Well,
from
and
there,
you're getting a backside of it too. You're
yeah,
actually you're getting that sweat equity in, and you don't have to rely on somebody else and pay somebody at a higher cost to be able to fix your homes, or let's say your flipped homes or your investment properties. So
correct.
you already have some tools that most people don't have getting into it. And
Yep.
I'm assuming that you enjoyed it enough to be able to say, hey, you know what, I do have the ability to do this, and I'm learning along the way.
I I enjoyed it to a certain degree. So I mean, when you're outside and you're in the cold, and you're working
Yeah.
with your hands, and you're getting beat
Yeah.
up, and that's how you earn your money.
Yeah.
It's great. But the thing that I noticed with my father was, so he owned his own company, and it wasn't a big company. It was it was a subcontractor. He literally worked really hard, and then he picked up the briefcase and
Mm.
he started bidding jobs, and that's all he did. So the whole time that when I was basically 19 on, he never picked up another tool. He
Mhm.
just went and negotiated, and that's what he told me. He's like, hey, you can basically do the hard work and grind it out, which is an honest hard living, or you can basically learn how to you know bid jobs and run people, run this company. And he's like, if you want to take this company over, you can. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I like what I've learned, but I don't want to do this on a daily basis. And so from there, I was
Yeah.
able to use what he gave me, and basically I was able to, if somebody came in and they wanted to do, if they're going to frame a house, if they're going to do sheetrock, if they're going to do, the lath and plaster on the outside, if they're going to do the, basically the taping and mudding, I can bid and get an idea what's a fair price, what's not. And
Yeah.
that's a whole nother side of the business also.
Well, and you have that experience, and that makes you a more valuable buyer, right? Or an investor, because you're able to invest that. So is that something that you translated when you began selling real estate as well? Like that, for example, if you had a potential client that you were going to sell a home for, you're like, you would know a good deal when it wasn't, and you could tell that client that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's the most important thing is, obviously the nice thing is when I got into real estate, our market was strong. We have a strong tech community, obviously in Seattle,
Mhm.
but there's houses out there that are great buys, and there's some that you want to kind of let them know that you may not want to consider this, just because of the condition and certain things that you see. And fortunately, I had that eye, and I work with a lot of you know subcontractors that can come, and I have great inspectors that I work with. And after 20 years of being in the business, you're going to see a ton of inspections. You're going to see
Yeah,
things as soon as you walk into a house. You're like, I don't know if you really want to consider this, because this is obviously something that was done with a quick mindset, or
sure.
somebody wanted to just get it done, get in and out, and they kind of miss a lot of corners. On the flip side of that is sometimes if you have another buyer that is looking for that, you can walk into a property and be like, this is rough, but there's great bones to this. There's ways that you can actually work this to profit for you. And
You could
so
get it as a steal or something like that. You could lowball them and hope to
there's all
turn.
sides of it. So that's the
Yeah,
most, the greatest thing about real estate in general, as you can find the ones that are, turnkey ready. You can walk in and, sell those, or you can find the ones that are dusty and dirty and they need, some new polish and paint and things like that to make them, better buy for somebody.
we're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
After a car accident, insurance companies will take every shot they can to leave you with nothing. But at Dubin Law, the game isn't over until you get the money you deserve. So call Dubin Law and add us to your roster today.
Like that to make them, better buy for somebody.
Okay, so you are this guy who's a good-looking man. B, you have all of this experience and these tools at your in your pocket to be able to help your client. How do you win the trust of that client who might not know you, that you were an NFL star, or that you were an actor and a model? Like, how do you win over the trust of new clients or retain those clients?
I think at this point in my career, the great thing is I had to grind when I was, when I first got into it. And you learn as you go. There's obviously things that you're going to grow from and not do that again. There's other things that, you're going to work with and try to repeat that and rinse over and over again and make sure
Mhm.
you do it the right way. It's also, I have good connections with other agents in the community. You work with different builders and contractors and things like that. So I think it's most important thing, as far as being an agent, is get to know your colleagues, because there's going to be certain times that, in the past where it was really competitive,
Mhm.
and you're going to have to present offers to help your client. As far as being a buyer's agent, you want to present offers. They're going to help your client win. And so to do that, you need to know the person that's on the other side of the table. You need
Sure.
to know how they work. And so that's just basically, touring, getting to know, different agents at their brokers opens, getting to know, as many people as you can. And then when it comes time for you to make that offer and put something in front of them, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is Ford. Yeah, he's got a lot of clients. He's really on the up and up as far as how he presents things. And I've worked with his lenders before. They make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Mhm.
And so when they know they work with me, it's not going to be an issue. We're going to make sure everything goes through in a timely manner. We're going to close properly. We're going to make sure the inspections are done right. We try to make sure we do everything the right way, every step of the process.
Well, what I'm hearing is that it wasn't easy for you to make that transition, and you had to learn a certain new skill sets. And I'm assuming some things worked and you kept repeating them, but then some things may not have. And I'm sure that the industry has changed. Like when you guys would do like cards every year or like whatever for modeling, for example, like, and you can you can agree with it. You always had to have a new comp card, right? And you had to get tested, and you had to new pictures of you and what you look like this, and you always had to update it. So, and I'm sure that in the real estate market, you always had to send out calendars, or everybody sends pins to people, or like gift cards or something. So, is there something that really stood out for you that you always got great feedback on, that was kind of like, wow, this is something that I want to repeat with every client?
For me personally, I kind of did it a different way. There was a workshop like years ago that I visited, and it was called By Referral Only.
Buyer referral only.
Yeah, so there's a few different, things you can go to. There's a ton of public speakers that are out there, but this one kind of stuck out to me more than any other. And the main thing is basically you want to treat your clients, they are the people that are going to bring you your next business. So every client that I work with, I try to obviously treat them with the utmost respect. And the most important thing is I let them know that, hey, this is a transaction we're doing right now, but believe this, you're not going to get rid of me just because this closes in 30 days. If you need anything real estate needed at all, if you need to find, a painter or an electrician or a plumber, call me first. I'm going to be your resource because I'm working with these people on a daily basis. You're basically, let's use you for an example. You're working in a podcast. You're not going to know certain things outside of what you do on a daily basis. I'm working with these people all the time. So what I want to do is make their lives a lot easier. So, if they're going to remodel, give me a call. I can give you 2 or 3 contractors that you may want to consider. So if I can be a resource to them, if I can be a tool to them, if I can make this easier in their life, that's what I want to do. So I want to be their real estate agent and advocate for life.
Well, okay. So what you just said is you want to make it relational, not transactional. And I think that is what makes you stand out 100% and gains the trust of a customer or a client, number one. And number two, it's like you're listening to them. And I know that's one of your biggest strengths as a realtor and someone who has become successful in the Pacific Northwest. It's like, it is about actively listening to your client and their pain point, because you just said that. You're like, what is it that you need? Do you need it to be, I have 2 contractors or an electrician that can talk to you because I have those in my pocketbook of knowing these people? Is that what you would, I guess, give is that what would give you the most, I'm blanking on this, but do you think that is what makes you the most successful, is about actively listening to a client?
Well, on the referral side of things, so you do that after you physically close a property. But most importantly is I ask my clients, like, what was your experience with me? So we give surveys with everybody. We'll do basically a Google review. And from there, you just want to make sure you grow, and what things could I have done better? What did you like with what, how we worked with one another? Because obviously this is a situation where I'm not just coming in and telling them, you have to buy this house. I'm trying to put something in front of them that makes them feel that they want to live there. This is a huge investment. This is a lifestyle change for them. This is the biggest investment that most people are going to make in their life.
Yeah.
So realistically, if you listen to them and you put them in a situation that's going to make them happy, it's going to make their life grow. When it comes time for them to do their next transaction, they're literally, the first thing they're going to do is they're calling, hey, give Forey a call. And the other thing too is they're out at dinner parties right now. If you're at a Christmas party and you're hosting a party at your house, like, oh, we love your house. Who did you work with?
Yeah.
First person out their mouth that you want them to say is, oh, you should definitely give Forey a call. He was great. We did X, Y, and Z to get to this point. And, 100%, I would definitely talk to him. So I do try to do that with all my clients. I'm like, hey, my line obviously is, and it's not really even a line, 99% of the time. But I tell people, I'm like, hey, I really had a great time, helping you in the process. I know that you're around people that are exactly like you. You know what I would love? I would love for you to introduce me to one of your friends or colleagues. And, if they're talking about housing or investments, just let me know if I can help them. If you do a text introduction, that's all I need. I'll speak with them and maybe sit down with a cup of coffee. And if they have questions directly for me, I would love to interview for the job.
I love that because that resonates with so many different industries too, whether that's me being a speaker, and you have to let people know what you do, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have to, you sell from the stage, but you don't really sell from the stage. You're pitching yourself, but you make money off of your referrals, because most of my speaking engagements are always off of referrals.
Yeah.
And so my personal mantra is, if you're memorable and valuable, you will be referable. And
Exactly.
you've done that in the real estate market. Like, you create a memory, and you're obviously valuable because you're experienced, you know what you're doing, and you set them up for success. And as a result, you become referable at that party, because I refer the people that help the builder of our home. We refer him all the time. We're like, oh my God, it was the best house ever. Our landscaper, I'm like, it was the best landscaping job I've ever had. Producing this podcast, I don't do it. My buddy Brennan in the other room does, right? So it's like, it's about referring people that bring value and are memorable. And it sounds to me like that's exactly what you've done.
Yeah, I try to do that as much as I can. And the crazy thing is, like, it's funny, like, we have parties and different things now. Like, we'll be doing a Christmas party here shortly at our house. And
are you late right now? Like, should you jump off here?
Yeah. So the thing is like, it's funny how many of these people that are coming over that from years ago, we've actually sold them houses, and they're like extremely good friends. And I have a friend that literally, he's probably referred me like 7 or 8 clients. And I don't even say anything. He's just like, oh man, you got to talk to Forey. So that's just a good feeling,
Yeah, it's a reward bucket filling, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's, just for somebody to say, you know what, don't talk to anybody else. I had a client I spoke with yesterday, and he wants me to resell a property that I sold to him, I want to say like 10 years ago. He moved to California. His wife is actually, she's doing residency down there, but they're moving back to Seattle. And they met, and before they met, she had her own real estate agent. So she basically wanted to use him or her to sell the property that she lived in. So he comes back and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, man, I tried to put you in front of her, but she had loyalty to that person. But I let her know that you're selling this condo. And when we come back up here and we buy, we're probably going to buy a $2-3 million house, we're working with you, and she doesn't have a choice. So he's to have somebody that's fighting for you, your spouse. That's also a great feeling too. And that was a referral from somebody that, that was a line of the third person. So I sold 2 people before that, and then I basically got them. So that's always a great feeling.
Well, and you're never going to be able to please everybody. You're not going to be everybody's realtor, right? And that's why it's good to know your colleagues, because if you sold a home every single day 14 times, you'd be too busy. Like, you cannot physically do that. So there's obviously more people out there doing this, and it's just like staying in the know. And our booker and our agent Christy Peterson talked about that on the podcast about the modeling industry, and it's like, if you try to get into an agent, or you try to become a model or a supermodel, it maybe not right now is the time. It's like, not now is not the right time. It might be later down the road, because if that you're planting that seed right now, you don't know when it's going to blossom. And the more that you stay in the know and you stay in top of mind with that person, maybe the sooner it will blossom. And it seems like that is another trick of yours, because you had mentioned this. It's like the real estate market is an ebb flow, and sometimes it's a high market and sometimes it's a low market. How have you set yourself up mentally to say, hey, this is a little grind, it's a little hard? Like, what do you do at home and with your wife? Like, how do you have that conversation? Like, we gotta kind of button it down a little bit, because it could be but that the light's at the end of the tunnel because you've done it for so long.
Honestly, this is typically this time of the year when you hit October, November, December, it kind of slows a bit. And so that's when you basically get all of your contact list together. You make sure you get back in front of them, and you just basically try to stay on top of mind for them. And so, that's just a process that we try to do, with newsletters and, just solds and just listeds. And, if there's anything that's changing in the market, we try to communicate with our clients at all times. And so if you're able to stay in front of them, honestly, we've been pretty fortunate where we haven't been slow for years. It's a little bit quieter now just because of interest rates and, there's different uncertainties in our,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say political landscape, but it is what it is. People are they're just taken back because there's jobs that are getting chopped here and there. But with that, there's also growth. So, the thing is you can be in situations where if somebody loses their job, they may need to sell their house. If companies are hiring, they're doing relocation. So they're bringing people in. So it's never really a stagnant business. So you just have to find your niche in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, that's where the focus of sports for myself and obviously my partner, she was an athlete also. You gotta grind before you can actually get to the glory, and that basically you put your head down, you gotta work, and then eventually things are they'll start popping, and next thing you know, it gets crazy. And it tends to happen that way for us. And we have that little slow time, you always kind of think, oh, what can I be doing differently? And you start doing that, and then all of a sudden everybody starts coming out the woodworks at the same time, and business gets crazy. So it's a good thing.
Well, it is a great thing. And what's interesting is that it's when somebody comes in and they're like, I've thought about getting into real estate earlier on in my career. And I was like, what was interesting is like, once I take advantage of my friends and family, then it takes the grind, right? Like you only have you have your easy fruit to pick from. What are you going to do next? And is that, in your experience as a seasoned realtor, do you see people getting into the market quit very soon because they have exhausted their friends and family and they just don't know how to grind?
I think that it's more of they're seeing the shiny lights. It's kind of like in sports. They don't really see what, a lot of athletes have to do in the background. When I played football, the season ends typically for a lot of teams, or at least when I was playing, it ends in December. As soon as you make that last paycheck, guess what? You got to grind it over again, because when you come into camp, there's guys that are, basically free agents coming from other teams that want to find a spot there, especially
more hungry than you.
Yeah. Or you got people coming in that are, coming out of college. They're fresh and they're like, hey, I want to make it, and then they look at the economic side of things of, it's a whole different nuance as far as football. But the main thing is you kind of have to think again, you got to start grinding and make sure that, you do all the right things the right way. And typically when you do that, it's gonna help you succeed. The other thing too is, again, talking about referrals, as long as you talk with your people and you ask them, it's the most important thing is don't be afraid. This is what I try to do with all my clients is once we get into contract, there's a time frame that you're going to be working with your buyer, your seller. And during that time, it's 30 days. So literally you're going to have inspections. You're going to have, you're dealing with the financing. You're dealing with
that's terrifying. That's terrifying as the buyer, and being there many times. That's like that purgatory, that limbo where you're like, oh, are we going to do right? Is this the right decision? And that's scary as the buyer.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're in that, say the inspection phase, and you make it past that, that's for me as an agent or as a realtor is the most important time for me to ask them for a referral. Because the bottom line is they know what I'm doing. They see, hey, I'm organizing X, Y, and Z. I got the inspector there. I got the lender set them up. I basically are making sure that their financing goes through. I'm making sure that the seller does all of the things on the inspection and that they're done correctly. I'm meeting contractors that they've hired to make sure that it's done properly. So all these things are happening behind the scene while they're at work doing what they need to do to obviously be able to buy the house. So the most important thing is they got to realize that I am working for them behind the scenes the whole time. And so it's not like as soon as we get in a contract, I'm just like partying in the background, like, ooh, I can't wait till I get this check.
Yeah.
It's not that at all. And realistically, I try to update them on every step of the way to let them know that, hey, this is what we did on this day. the inspection's done. We need to get X, Y, and Z, basically completed prior to closing. And then when it when it does come time
Mm-hmm.
for the closing celebration,
Say
I
that
want it
5
to be
times
all
fast, Corey.
happiness.
Say it
What's
5
that?
times fast. Say it 5 times.
Closing celebration.
Yeah.
So once we get to that point, I want it to really be a celebration for them. I
Yeah.
want to be able to hand off the keys, give them champagne, basically let them know that you've done it. This
Yeah.
is a huge moment in your life. And so, to take all that stress off of them and to make it so that when they finally walk into that house, they're like, we've done it.
Yeah.
We've actually made it. And from that point on, for the next 10, 15, 20 years, that's going to help them, at least in the area we're in Seattle and Bellevue and some of the surrounding areas. It's one of the best investments they can ever make in their life because it's going to grow their wealth. It's going to help them as far as, they're going to have a roof to live underneath,
Yeah.
and from there, they can decide how they want to actually make that work for their situation.
Well, you talk about actively listening to your client and listening to them and hearing their pain point. But then is there something that you do to create an experience for your client, like going above and beyond? Is there something that you do to stand out after the process or during the process that really makes you stand apart from your competition and the other realtors?
It's always, you definitely have to do your research on everything. So the first step is obviously you meet with your client. We write down everything that they're looking for. If they want, just simple things like, hey, I need a 3-bedroom, I need a 2-bath, I need to be close enough to work so I can get there within a 30-minute time frame because I'm an ER doctor or whatever, So the most important thing is the first step is you interview them while they're interviewing you to make sure that you have all their checklist of needs. From there, that's when the process starts. So then we're going to basically research, look at certain areas, certain homes, locations, obviously, to make sure that's going to fit what works for them. And then from there, once you do that, you're going to put them in front of the homes that they're looking for. And once they walk in, they're going to kind of know at that point if this is right or if this is not. And typically you're going to look at 3 or 4 homes a day, and the whole time it's a learning process.
For you and the customer,
for
right?
sure.
I'm
100%.
assuming you're like taking mental notes, like,
Yeah.
oh, this person has 3 kids and this is a great school district, or this person loves the Mariners, so maybe I'm going to give them a signed baseball at the end of this because I know that they love baseball. That's the time that you're taking those mental notes.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. So, if they have kids, we're definitely bringing toys and gifts and stuffies. There's so many different situations that we deal with. We deal with families. We deal with first-time home buyers that are, it could be somebody moving in from out of state and, they just need somewhere to, basically, just settle for a short time, and they're going to be a move-up buyer at some point. So there's so many different scenarios that we deal with, and that's the greatest part about the job.
It's always changing.
Oh, it's always changing.
And I think that goes to a lot of different businesses too, just like this. It's like every time I have a new guest on, it's like a choose your own adventure podcast that my podcast or my producer totally trademarked, I think. And then it's like from the stage, every audience is going to be a little bit different and everybody's going to get it. And it's that's what keeps it challenging. Yeah. And it's just like with you with football, every game, every week was going to be a different team. Like, okay, we got to start over. It's like a whole new game. It's a whole new set. And the next season is going to be the same thing. And so it keeps that challenge. I think it keeps us curious and wanting to continuously grow.
Oh yeah. It's just, like you said, it's a game plan. So basically you have, people don't realize this, with every team you go into as far as the next game, you have a book that's literally about that thick. It's a playbook every week. And you're learning that every night. You're going through looking at tendencies. What are they doing third down and long, third down and short? On special teams, what are they doing here? What are they doing, on their punt team, their kickoff team? It's similar, when you're working with a client. You're basically, you need to learn exactly what they're looking for. And then from there, you want to translate that so that when you do put them in that house that they said, hey, we're looking for this 4-bedroom, 5-bath. We want good schools. We want to be within a certain, distance from light rail.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to basically bring them out to Woodinville,
Right.
Put them in a Rambler that's three
Right.
bedroom, two baths. It's going to take them 45 minutes on a
Mhm.
good day. You want to make sure that, everything that you put them in front of, it's going to make them smile and really, really consider what you're presenting to them. And that's just part of the process. You listen to your clients, and then from there, you're going to be successful if you do that. So the number one thing is listen. From there, you put your game plan together. Once you have that game plan together, you basically put that in front of them, and hopefully you can succeed and get a touchdown, get an interception, or whatever, with making them be able to celebrate in the end zone when they walk into their house with their keys.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it really is, and that's a great analogy, because when I bought my first home, when my wife and I bought our second home, and when we built our home, it's like that feeling of like achievement and knowing that we did that. We were the ones that saved enough money for the down payment, and having someone there to hold our hand really made us feel special, and like we weren't alone, and that somebody had our back. And I know, because you and I have many friends and that are similar connections and have used you as a realtor, and they speak so highly of you, Forey. And it's like, and I only have you as a modeling colleague, right? And I'm like, I already speak highly of him, right? But I can see that translate off the field to in front of a business deal, and then also behind the camera, because you're just so you're real and you're authentic, and you do care about the person that's in front of you. And I think that is one of your greatest strengths. That's your superpower, man. And I look up to it, and I really do admire that.
Why I mean, a lot of that comes from, sometimes it's kind of how you've been raised, the things that you've seen that are good,
Mm-hmm.
and the things you've seen that are not so good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, everything basically is going to mold you into the person you are. At the end of the day, you just always want to, for one, try to be the best person you can. And hopefully when you do that, and, you listen to people, and you're able to spend quality time, and realize that if you treat them right, they're going to treat you right. It's a win-win for everybody, especially in the business that I'm in. That it's more of a life business, because again, you're changing people's lives,
Yeah.
and it's just, you're putting them into somewhere that they're coming back home to, and they feel comfortable, and they're watching, basically they may be having kids in this home,
Mm-hmm.
maybe pushing them off to college from something that you put them in. So it's a huge situation.
When you have influence and you make an impact on people, even though, and I think this is a challenge that I don't know if this is one of your biggest challenges, but a lot of people look at a realtor like they make so much money and they haven't done any work. And you've just negated that, because you've just said, like, you have no idea what we're doing on the back end,
Oh, yeah.
right? And making people feel comfortable. Because I remember going through that too. It's like, oh, this person's going to get 3%. They get 6%. It's like, oh, but when you take a step back and you look at all of the things that you're doing and the comfort, and you're moving us along, and you're making sure things aren't going to fall through, or you're holding our hand, it's like, it is worth it. And I think that that being your superpower and listening to those people goes above and beyond. And it reminds me of, I remember my financial advisor and my accountant told me one time, I'm like, why don't I just go to H&R Block, and why don't I just use this? And they go, well, you could, but the difference is if they save you $2,000 just to do your H&R Block, not to knock on them or anything like that, to do it is $2,000. But if I save you $15,000 and it costs $5,000, I've still made you $8,000. And it was like, you're paying me for my knowledge and my experience and my know-how, and knowing that I know your situation and I know exactly what's best for you. And so it was like being able to have that conversation with a financial advisor or an accountant. It was like, what would you do for your kids or your grandkids? And it was easy for them to say, this is what I would do. And then when I know that they're going to treat me like their child or their grandkid, I know everything. I'm in the best hands. Like Allstate says that I'm in good hands. And you provide that to your client. Like, that they're in good hands because you have them under your wing.
Yeah, the amazing thing is, obviously, it's experience and time. And, we have basically 30 years of combined experience, if you work with us.
Mm-hmm.
So the nice thing is we've done a ton of listings over the years. And so we're able to basically not only help buyers, but on the listing side of things, if you put a really good product in front of, potential buyers. They're coming and they're going to make offers. So the nice thing is we've been able to physically look at, contracts that are sent to us on specific houses that we're selling. And we can look and see how different agents bring in their offers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing sometimes that you can see the experience level right there.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this person's been in the business for 12 years and they're presenting an offer this way. It's kind of mind blowing. And you're just like, obviously they're not getting the training. They haven't done a lot of deals. Some people have done a ton of deals, but right away, it's pretty amazing of why some people are more successful than others. It's because, the way that they're able to present offers in multiple offer situations, how they can make their client look more favorably towards the seller or to the seller. And so those are all things that, with time and experience and basically doing a lot of transactions, that you're able to help your client win situations or help your seller. You want to get them the most, value out of their home that
Absolutely.
you can. And with that experience, we've had that. And so that's the thing that we bring to the table is we're going to bring something special to make our clients successful more often than not.
Well, and you're leveraging your experience and your know-how and your knowledge and your stories too, because being able to tell the story to someone like you're not the only person who's the bank has denied them at the last minute. You're not the only person who had a roof fall down with bees in it yesterday. Like you have this experience and you obviously are able to hold their hands. And so you bring up something that I want to finish up with, and that is that what does success look like for you now? Because you're a father of some amazing kids who have a parents who are athletes and NFL athlete. Like, what does success look like for you now as a parent and as a father and a realtor?
As a parent, that's always changing. It's, with our kids nowadays, with, all their devices and things like that, the most important thing for me is I want to be present. I want to make sure that, we've been fortunate to have, 2 out of 3 kids that are kind of ball track kids. So they're good athletes. Our middle daughter was more of a dancer, which is great too. That's athletic also. But our oldest, we just wanted to support her in track and field. And, fortunately, when she was younger, she was able to win state in the 200. She also won state in the long jump her junior year. She was able to get a track scholarship to the University of Washington and follow her mother's footsteps. My middle daughter is up at Western Washington now, and she's just doing academics, which is great. And then now we have a 14-year-old who's actually a basketball player, football player at a local high school. And so the most important thing, I think, is you try to support them. The hard line, obviously, is you want to give them advice, but at the same time, you don't want to give it to them where they feel like you're giving them too much advice. They take that a certain way. So it's
hard. It is so hard, boy. Like and someone told me once that the best thing to do is just listen to them, right? Especially like on a drive and you just let them talk, especially with their friends. And you're just like, because if you just start jumping in and giving that advice, it closes them off. And I mean, you're several years ahead of me with the kids, but it's like, there's another reason that you and I have connected. And it's like being a great parent. And I look up to you as a parent and having kids that have become successful and are finding their own wings and taking off. And I know that you guys are so proud of them. And whether you're posting something about them, and it's like, that is success to me, is being able to have dinner with my kids and being able to pick them up at school and just knowing that they can defend themselves in all things by themselves and they don't need to rely on us.
Well, I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's a learning process. You talked about before, you were like, hey, when you're in the NFL, how were you able to transition that? And were you selling your friends and family? One thing that I did that a lot of people don't realize is I was born and raised in California. I came to Washington. I knew a handful of people, but everything I did, I had to just do it, So it was trial and error. And, I wasn't afraid of that. And so the most important thing is just I wanted to get after it. And, if I can make it happen, I could. If I didn't succeed, you just dust yourself off and start all over again. And so that's one thing that we try to tell our kids too, is you're going to always learn a lot more when you fail than when you succeed.
Love that.
I still have a picture hanging up of my daughter who was a really great track athlete. She did, Junior Olympics for years, and she would always finish like third, like in the state. Like her freshman year, she finished third in the long jump, and she was never first. And then she got to her junior year and she trained like a savage basically that year. Cause she told us, she's like, I want a track scholarship. I want to make it. And when she did that, she has this picture where I just see her, she's in the rain. It was a sideways downpour. And I remember her when she was going to start the 200 meters. I was on the fence and I told her, I said, hey, I don't want to say my daughter's name, but I said, this is you. And she looked at me and she said, excuse this to your audience, I'm not losing this fucking race. With the just hardest look in her face. And she came in, ran the best time of her life and won it. She's like, I'm not losing this again. And then she won the long jump right before that. But the picture that I remember that's still on my wall is her just looking up. Her head is back and the rain's on her. And she's just like so relieved that she did it. And it was because she worked for it. She trained her butt off to get where she was at. And that was a beautiful thing as a parent to see, like, you did this all on your own. You said what you wanted to do and you achieved it.
Oh, and I love that because we can get help from other people and people can be our mentors and kind of show us the right direction and the journey and tell us what to avoid or what not to avoid. But in the end, it's up to us.
Yes.
And you were the one who decided to move up from California. You were the one who decided to hang up the uniform. It's like you were the one who decided to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches versus going out every night to have dinner when you bought your first home. It's like these choices that you make in the end are yours. And if it's something that you really want so badly, then you can get it if you really set yourself to it. What would you say is maybe this is as a parent that you did for your kids or for you personally? Is there something that you would say that was always the thing that you went to that could self-talk yourself to achieving what is like, what was your mantra or your self-talk that you told yourself, like, I've got this?
Well, the most important thing is obviously set your goals. Have a reminder daily. You need to have something. If you have a whiteboard on your office, write that. Just say, hey, this is what I want to do this year. I want to sell 50 homes this year. I want to get X amount of income. Have that reminder so when you wake up and you get out of your bed, you're looking at that. And so it basically, that where am I at? January 1, am I going to hit that number? From January to February, where am I at the end of February? The thing too is a lot of people think of calendar years as like, I'm starting fresh in January. Don't start fresh in January. Start right now in October.
I love
start grinding now. Don't wait till the first of the year.
No, I love that. Because somebody else is starting now.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
So you just keep your focus and also, realize that when you fail and you're going to fail, that is not the end all. Get back up, dust yourself off. I was fortunate enough to play defensive back, in the NFL Europe and college. And trust me, when that ball was a deep ball in the air, you're either going to win it or you're going to lose it. And you're going to be the hero or you can be the GOAT. And so every time when you see that ball, I remember I used to hear it. You're running full speed next to a lot of times guys that have Olympic speed next to you. That ball's in the air and you hear ball and you got to make a play. And if you do, it's great, but there's going to be times you don't. So what are you going to do when that next series happens? Are you going to sit on the bench and mope? Or are you going to figure it out, dust yourself off and say, you know what? That's not the end. I'm going to start and make the next series better than the last one. And that's kind of what you have to do with life. You got to realize that you're going to get kicked around. And when you do, you're going to learn a lot more than when you're celebrating with that trophy in your hand.
Oh, that's well said, Forey. I love that. All right, so I'm going to try something with you just because you and I banter back and forth all the time. And, when we're sitting at craft services on a modeling or an acting job, it's like, what are we going to talk about? So I want to ask you just a couple quick questions, okay? And it's just like quick, rapid fire and just give your answer because I'm interested, okay? All right, so is it going to be turf or grass?
Oh, grass all day.
Okay. First
Yes.
word that comes to your mind, NFL locker room.
Whew. Can be stress, celebration, laughter, and tears.
Oh, that's all. That's a lot. Depends on whatever that ball was, right? Harder to sell, you, yourself, or a house?
I'm never selling a house, so I'm not selling myself. I think we're presenting both. So I don't know if that's a fair analogy. Yeah.
That's well said. I like that. All right. One skill every realtor must have, non-negotiable to be successful.
You got to be a great listener. Got to be a great listener, for sure.
The teammate you learn the most from.
Oh, man. I would say Brock Marion. He was my college teammate. We both got drafted the same year. We were both in each other's weddings. Is basically not best men, but pretty much best men. I only had total of 3 years of being in the league, NFL and NFL Europe. He had 12. And so, yeah, I would say Brock Marion.
Okay, last question. Best advice that you would give your younger self if you met yourself?
Oh, man. Just keep pushing forward and keep investing, which I don't know. I feel pretty happy with where I'm at. And I feel like I've kind of done a lot of the right things. And so just keep on keeping on.
No. And yeah, I'll tell you, you are keeping on. And I'll tell you, I continue to admire you and look up to you. And I just love the direction that your life is going and just being a fantastic dad. And
I have one thing. I want to say. I guess this is one thing that I did learn from a coach a long time ago. And it's a saying that I've always kept in the back of my mind. And it was never dream with your eyes closed. That has always stuck with me. So it's so powerful that, you can't just dream and sit there and do nothing. You got to get out there and get after it. That's what I took from that.
That's a great final. That's going to be our intro right there, bro. I love it. Okay, well, where can people find out more about you and connect with you and possibly use you as their realtor? Because I'm telling you right now, this guy is the person that you would want in your back corner.
Yeah, the best way, obviously, to get in touch with me is by mobile. That's 206-730-4779. I can also be reached via our website, and that's ducketthomes.net. And we're actually affiliated with Coldwell Banker. So again, D as in David, UCKETT, Homes, HOMES.net.
And I'm going to add all those links in the comments and in the YouTube channel. So we're going to definitely steer people in the right direction for that. And it's just been a pleasure, man. I love you, and I love you being that mentor to me. And I am going to continue dreaming with my eyes wide open. And I'm going to transfer some of the things that you talked about today about making sure that you actively listen to those people, because I speak about that. And it's so important in order to become referable, is to provide that memory and that value, and you will become referable. And you've done a fantastic job of that, Forey. And thank you so much for being a part of my life.
Yeah, thank you, Boo. It's so great just speaking with you. And, it's great watching you. It's fun seeing you succeed, and you're great on camera, and your voice is amazing. And it's just fun seeing people that, we've met at earlier stages in our lives. Now that we're becoming more vintage, we're still doing it. We're still getting after it. So
I'm trying. I just did a casting this morning in New York for, it was a Zoom casting. It's like, oh my gosh, I have a few more sunshine lines than I used to, but we still do it, and I love it.
You're vintage, man. You're vintage. You're better with time. Just like a fine wine.
Those Yankees guy, yeah. I love it. Forey, thank you so much for being a part of this today and being on the Blue Stiley podcast. I'm wishing you the best of luck, and I love you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me, and it's always great to communicate with one another. Best of luck.
Forey. You too.
Thank you.
If this episode brings you value, or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.